Hello and welcome to India Business Hour. I'm Shireen Bhan. The headlines that we're tracking for you tonight. The IPO frenzy on Dalal Street. Investors lock up over 2,50,000 crore rupees for shares worth 7,400 crores from 5 IPOs. Tata Tech alone accounts for over 60% of the overall bid amount. The public offer was subscribed 70 times. Warren Buffett's Berkshire Hathaway exits Paytm, sells 2.5% stake through a block deal for 1,370 crore rupees, books a loss of over 800 crore rupees after investing nearly 2,200 crore rupees in 2018. Day one of the 4-day ceasefire in Gaza, Israel military warns that the war is not over yet. Reports say that aid trucks have started entering Gaza from the Egyptian border, the first tranche of hostage release taking place today. Officials hopeful of rescuing 41 workers trapped inside the Uttarkashi tunnel. 2 more pipes are being inserted to create an exit way for workers. The 41 workers have been stuck inside the tunnel now for 13 days. The Supreme Court reserves its verdict in the Adani-Hindenburg matter as arguments conclude. Petitioners question the credibility of the SEBI probe. Court observes that SEBI cannot act against entities solely based on news reports. The government will assist citizens in filing FIRs against social media companies for hosting objectionable content, including deepfakes. The Minister of State, Rajiv Chandrasekhar, says social media platforms have a 7-day deadline to align their terms of service to Section 3 of the IT Act that covers deepfake. Government and RBI officials to meet banks and payment aggregators next week as cyber fraud cases rise. Sources say the objective of the meeting is to explore effective risk mitigation solutions to the cyber fraud menace. The Reserve Bank of India supersedes the board of Abu Dhabi Cooperative Bank for 12 months and appoints an administrator. RBI cites material concerns due to poor governance standards. India's drug regulator begins a pan-India enforcement drive to crack down on poor manufacturing practices in pharma companies. Sources say samples will be picked up randomly from factories and tested. The regulator has directed enforcement teams to take legal action if products are not found to be of standard quality. A Qatar court accepts India's appeal against the death penalty to 8 former Indian Navy veterans. The next hearing is scheduled on the 30th of November. Rajasthan votes tomorrow in what promises to be a tight contest. More than 5 crore voters will decide the fate of 1,800 candidates across 199 seats. As always, let's start with the market action of the day. The sensex and the nifty ended the day flat again after a range-bound session. Bank stock did manage to buck the trend, though IT stocks today led the decline, with the Nifty IT index losing nearly 1%. But the story for the week, the sensex and the nifty managing to end in the green. The Nifty Bank index also gained about 0.5%, and the mid-cap index gained for the 4th straight week. That's the picture for our markets this week. It's been a flattish range-bound performance. But moving on, the big story tonight, the IPO frenzy on Dalal Street. Investors have cumulatively placed bids worth 2.58 lakh crore rupees for shares worth 7,400 crores. Now, the 5 IPOs that closed this week, Tata Tech has garnered the lion's share, accounting for over 60% of the overall bid amount. Hormuz is standing by with the IPO wrap. Hormuz, massive demand for these IPOs.
Well, IPO frenzy undoubtedly on Dalal Street, as 5 IPOs that were open for subscription this week closed on Friday and on Thursday as well. And these 5 IPOs, Ireda, Fedbank Financial Services, Tata Technologies, Gandhar Oil Refineries and Flair Writing Industries, most of them saw equal interest from investors across the board. And the significant part of these 5 IPOs is that all of them together planned to raise around 7,500 crore rupees, but they ended up receiving bids worth 2.5 lakh crore rupees. Tells you a lot about the investor frenzy in these IPOs. Now, I'll talk to you about all of these IPOs individually, and I'll start off with Tata Technologies. And unsurprisingly, out of the 2.5 lakh crores that were bid, it got the lion's share. The first Tata Group IPO in 2 decades. The overall subscription was 70 times. It received bids worth over 1.5 lakh crore rupees. And Gandhar Oil Technologies as well, that was a 500 crore IPO. It was a mixture of a fresh issue and an OFS. That too was subscribed 65 times at the close, and it received bids worth 23,000 crore rupees. Flair Writing Industries as well was subscribed 46 times. That was a 593 crore IPO. That got bids worth nearly 20,500 crore rupees as well. But Fedbank Financial Services, in comparison to the others, saw a lackluster response. The overall issue was subscribed only 2.2 times. It was subscribed only fully on the final day of bidding, and it received bids worth around 1,700 crore rupees. And lastly, IREDA, or the Indian Renewable Energy Development Agency, the first PSU IPO since LIC, which came out last year, that was subscribed 40 times, and that received bids worth nearly 60,000 crore rupees. And the subscription that it had made it the 7th most subscribed PSU IPO over the last decade. So IPO frenzy, clearly, well, they say put your money where the mouth is, but the investors are certainly putting their money where the IPOs are.
Well, that certainly seems to be the case. You can't argue with what investors want to do. That's the number on the board. Hormuz, many thanks for joining us. Now, market regulator SEBI is expected to discuss the proposed changes to voluntary delisting norms at its board meet tomorrow. The board is likely to tweak the delisting rules, making it easier for companies to exit the Lal Street. Remember, the SEBI chief had talked about not wanting to create a Chakravyuh. Rules determining floor price, reference date for delisting could also see changes. SEBI could also discuss alternatives to the reverse book building process and the counter-offer framework. The press conference has been scheduled for 5:30 p.m. tomorrow. Remember to tune into CNBC-TV18. We will bring you the regulator live. Now, Warren Buffett's Berkshire Hathaway has sold its shareholding in Paytm. The 2.5% stake was sold through a block deal for 1,370 crore rupees. Remember, Berkshire invested about 2,200 crore rupees into Paytm when it invested in 2018. With the exit, the company has booked a loss of over 800 crore rupees. Paytm shares ended the day lower by over 3%. So that's Berkshire exiting Paytm completely, booking a loss of over 800 crore rupees, exiting the 2.5% stake at 1,370 crores. Of course, the block deal went through the market. The disclosure on who the seller was came in post market hours. We will have to see how the stock reacts when we open for trade on Tuesday, Monday being a market holiday. LIC shares rallied in trade, clocking its biggest single-day gain since listing. Record high volumes drove the rally higher, given the public insurer's low public float percentage. Now, with this, the public insurer's stock has rallied as much as 27% over the last 8 months. However, and this is important, the stock remains 30% below its IPO price. The rally has also helped LIC's market cap swell by about 38,000 crores. Shares of Honasa Consumer up for the second straight session after it reported a strong set of earnings for the September quarter. Now, the parent of the beauty care company Mamaearth has seen its profits nearly double in the quarter. The stock has also rallied because brokerage firm Jefferies has retained its buy rating and projected a potential upside of as high as 70% on the stock. But another factor behind the up move is also the lack of available liquidity, with the first lock-in period for shares ending on the 2nd of December. The other big story tonight, the Supreme Court has reserved its verdict in the Adani-Hindenburg matter. The petitioners and the government lawyers wrapped up their arguments today. Ashmit is standing by with more on what transpired. Ashmit, it's been long. There have been many delays. Finally, arguments over. The court reserves its order in the Adani-Hindenburg matter.
Well, after months of arguments, after expert committees being formed, after SEBI investigations, finally the Supreme Court has concluded hearing the arguments in this case and has reserved the judgment in the Adani-Hindenburg matter. Here are the 4 key takeaways to bear in mind. Number 1, the Supreme Court, while concluding arguments, observed that it has not had enough material to doubt the SEBI investigation. This observation was made after the petitioners had raised questions that the Hindenburg report, when combined with the OCCRP report, makes for a substantial grounds for an independent SIT. Here, the Supreme Court observed that journalistic work cannot be treated as gospel truth. That's 1. Number 2, the Supreme Court did not look very kindly on allegations being made by the petitioners on cases of conflict of interest within the members of the expert committee. Here, the Supreme Court observed that allegations of this nature are being unfair to the members of the expert committee, and that if such allegations are made in the future, no respectable members of the industry will want to join Supreme Court appointed committees. With respect to SEBI itself, well, SEBI clarified before the Chief Justice of India that there were 24 cases identified for investigation. 22, the probe has been completed. 2 are still pending because information is awaited from regulators overseas, which is not in the control, which is not in the hands of the Indian market regulator. And finally, the Supreme Court, with respect to the way forward on short selling, there SEBI has clarified that the expert committee has made recommendations on tweaks to the regulatory framework and that they've been welcomed by SEBI as well as the central government, and it is under consideration for tweaking the existing framework. So with that, the Supreme Court reserving its judgment, all eyes now on the top court to give clarity on the way forward on the Adani-Hindenburg case.
All right, Ashpat, appreciate you joining us. Now, Rajiv Chandrasekhar, the Minister of State for Electronic and IT, said the government will assist citizens in filing FIRs against social media companies if they want to file a complaint against objectionable content like deepfakes. Now, a deepfake video is a video of a person where the face or body has been digitally altered so that they appear to be someone else. Deepfakes are largely used to spread misinformation. The minister has also said that social media companies have a 7-day deadline to align their terms of use to curb the deepfake menace. Take a look.
The Rule 7 officer will also be a person who will create a platform where it will be very easy for digital Nagriks to bring to the attention of the government of India their notices of allegations of or their notices or allegations or reports of violation of law by the platforms, and the Rule 7 officer will take that digital platform information and respond accordingly. So we'll make it very simple for the citizen to report violations of law by platforms to the government, and we'll make it very simple for the government to invoke Rule 7 and make it possible for the citizen to invoke the court of law against a platform that is violating the law.
I think the existing framework is sufficient, but the implementation is very, very tricky because, you know, if you change 5 seconds of a 15-second deep fake, is it the same deep fake, right? So platforms regulating deep fakes for them, it's going to be very, very difficult. You can't expect 100% compliance. It's impossible for platforms. So you know, I think it's important to address the issue of deepfakes in terms of creating awareness, in terms of taking down content as much as possible.
Well, from deep fakes to cyber fraud, the government will meet banks and fintechs on the 28th of November to find ways to mitigate the rising menace of cyber frauds. We learn from sources that the Reserve Bank and other regulators will be part of the discussions. Sapna joins us now with more details. Sapna, clearly the government concerned about rising cases of data breach, cyber fraud, cyber theft. Take us through what the game plan is.
Well, there is a growing concern within the government on the rise in the incidence of digital payment frauds, the cyber frauds, and the numbers thereon. An important meeting has been called next week by the Finance Ministry. This is going to be chaired by the DFS Secretary, Mr. Vivek Joshi, in which a number of important participants are going to be there. So not just the payment aggregators and some of the key banks, but also within the government, there is likely to be very wide participation. For instance, officials from Reserve Bank of India, from the MHA, from DOT, from TRAI, from UIDAI, from METI, also the top management of NPCI, all of these are going to be present. In terms of banks, the senior management of SBI and the top management of BOB have been particularly invited. And basically, you are also going to have a discussion on, in terms of the number of digital payment frauds, how the incidence has risen, and what are the challenges being faced by the government and the regulators in terms of arresting this trend. We need to watch out whether any specific directions will also come out in terms of banks and the payment aggregators. So this is a space to watch, and it's not just a November 28 meeting that will be important, but maybe something more will emerge over the next 2 to 3 odd months. So we need to keep an eye on this.
All right, thanks Sapna for joining us. Now the Reserve Bank has superseded the board of Mumbai-based Abhyuday Cooperative Bank. The RBI cited material concerns related to poor corporate governance standards for supersession. The action will be for a period of a year. Ritu joins us now with the details. Ritu, what does this mean for this cooperative bank?
Well, Shireen, firstly, this is the 6th instance or so in the span of just the last 3 years that the regulator has taken this extreme step against a bank because of poor governance to protect the depositors. It has now superseded the board of Mumbai-based Abhyuday Cooperative Bank for a 1-year period and named a former Chief General Manager of SBI, Satya Prakash Pathak, as the administrator to carry on the day-to-day affairs of the bank. The action was necessitated, RBI said, and I quote, due to certain material concerns emanating from poor governance standards which were observed in the bank, unquote. Now, RBI has also named a committee of advisors which will assist the administrator to discharge his duties. That includes a former SBI general manager, another chartered accountant, and a former MD of Cosmos Cooperative Bank. Now, in terms of the impact on them, well, RBI has made it very clear there are no business restrictions that have been imposed, and so Abhyuday can continue to carry on its normal business activities under the guidance of the new administrator. Now, remember, this is the same bank about which a fake rumor was circulating in October, which had claimed that RBI had cancelled their license because of weak financials, because of inadequate capital. But at that time, in October itself, RBI had clarified this is not true and the license had indeed not been cancelled. In the past, like I was saying, we've seen the cases of Yes Bank, DHFL, Shrey, Reliance, Lakshmi Vilas Bank, where barring Lakshmi Vilas and Yes Bank, all of these lenders were sent to the bankruptcy court for resolution. So we'll have to see what happens in this case. Now, Abhyuday, that is a 58-year-old cooperative bank that's based in Mumbai. Its area of operations is confined to Maharashtra largely and some parts in Gujarat and Karnataka. There are 109 branches and deposits of almost 11,000 crores with advances of about 6,700 crores that the bank had as of FY21. And there are more than 17 lakh depositors that are involved.
All right, Ritu, appreciate you joining us. More from the Reserve Bank. It has also imposed penalties on 3 banks for non-compliance of various regulatory norms. The highest penalty of 5 crore rupees has been imposed on Citibank, while a fine of 4 crore rupees has been imposed on Bank of Baroda. Indian Overseas Bank has to pay a penalty of 1 crore rupees. Now, rescue operations in the Uttarkashi tunnel collapse are in its final stage. Officials are hopeful of rescuing the 41 workers who've been trapped for the last 13 days. 2 pipes are being inserted through debris to create an exit way for the trapped workers.
The auger machine has started its drilling process. The 9th pipe is now being drilled in. At approximately 4:30 p.m. this evening, the auger machine had started its work after the 9th pipe was welded to the 8th pipe, and the machine has started to work. I'll just try and move out of the frame and try and show you in the visuals over here. There is a lot of movement that has already started inside the tunnel at this point in time. All the people who are present inside the tunnel and were not needed, they have been asked to leave the tunnel, because remember, there was a lot of construction activity going in, which included the making of the platform and then assembling the auger machine. After the assembly process and the welding process of the pipe has happened, the drilling process has finally started, which was at 46.8% since last night. It is now increasing by every passing minute. We are still waiting for the 10th pipe to go. So approximately in the next 4 to 5 hours, we are expecting that that breakthrough will be achieved by the rescuers, and post that another 2 hours for the cleaning of the debris that might be inside the pipes, and then NDRF teams will rush inside with the paramedics, and people will start coming out. So by midnight, or probably later than that, an hour or so later than that, we can expect that these people will start coming out. Again, with the caveat that if everything goes according to the plan, and hopefully there are no more obstructions that might be waiting for that auger machine. But yes, one thing is confirmed: over the next 5.4 meters, there is definitely no metal obstruction, and hence the auger machine could actually drill in at a higher speed. And post that, the last 6 meters, since the debris is in the pyramid form, and the last few meters might have very small pieces of silt, and it will be easy for that powerful machine to drill through that. So the process will pace up, is what we are expecting. This is something that is being expected by the experts as well. So yes, by today midnight, we are expecting that finally we'll get those visuals that we have been waiting for the last 13 days. People will start coming out in ambulances and will be taken to Uttarkashi, where the makeshift hospital has been made, for where they will be kept in observation for at least 24 hours.
Well, that certainly is the hope that there will be a breakthrough, perhaps post-midnight tonight. Now, Reliance Jio has been helping with the rescue efforts in Uttarakhand. Jio has been the only operator for the first 2 days aiding the rescue operations. In fact, the location is in the extreme north of Uttarakhand, which takes about 8 hours of travel from Dehradun. The Jio Mobility Network was established within 18 hours to support the voice and data communication on needs of the rescue operations. Remember, communication is crucial in an operation like this. The network is currently serving 1,200 users per day with daily data consumption of 700 gigabytes. Listen in to the Jio team that's been able to work round the clock to ensure communication.
टीम जियो हमेशा से स्टेप इन करती रही है जब भी कभी कोई ह्यूमैनिटेरियन क्राइसिस आया हो, जब भी कभी गवर्नमेंट या एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन ने हमें रीच किया हो, या जब भी कोई मोमेंट ऑफ क्राइसिस रहा हो, तो टीम जियो ने हमेशा स्टेप इन किया है। और इसके कुछ उदाहरण हैं पास्ट में जो मैं बताना चाहूँगा। जैसे अभी 4 धाम की यात्रा कोविड 2019 पेंडेमिक के बाद शुरू हुई 3 साल के गैप से, तो एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन ने हमें अप्रोच किया कि जो पैदल पथ है, जो पेडेस्ट्रियल रूट है 18 किलोमीटर का गौरीकुंड से लेकर केदारनाथ तक, तो हमने उस दौरान रिकॉर्ड टाइम में 4 सोल्यूशन लगाए पैदल यात्रा के पथ पर, और आज पूरे की पूरी पैदल यात्रा का पथ कवर करने वाली जियो पहली ऑपरेटर बनी।
जियो हमेशा ऐसे चैलेंजेस में स्टेट के रेजिडेंट्स और एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन के लिए हमेशा आगे रहा है। तो इस समय भी जब हमें डिपार्टमेंट ऑफ टेलीकम्युनिकेशन से और स्टेट एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन से ये रिक्वायरमेंट आई, तो इमीडिएटली हमने अपनी टीम्स को मोबिलाइज़ किया, नॉट ओनली फॉर नेटवर्क बट एक सोशल ड्यूटी भी लेते हुए, और 24 घंटे के अंदर हमने वहाँ मोबाइल कनेक्टिविटी इस्टेब्लिश कर दी। पहले कुछ दिन सिर्फ जियो ही एक ऑपरेटर था जिसमें सारी तरह के लोग, चाहे अपने वो रेस्क्यू में लगे हुए सिक्योरिटी ऑपरेशंस थे या मेडिकल स्टाफ था या पुलिस स्टाफ था, सिर्फ जियो के नेटवर्क पे ही कम्युनिकेट कर पा रहे थे।
Well, that is the latest as far as the rescue operations are concerned and efforts there on what it took to create that communication line, that communication channel. Up next on India Business Hour, India's drug regulator begins a pan-India enforcement drive to crack down on poor manufacturing practices in pharma companies. Sources say samples will be picked up randomly from factories and tested. That and more when we return. You can also catch CNBC-TV18's news and updates on WhatsApp, Facebook, X, Threads, Instagram and JioCinema. A 4-day ceasefire has commenced in Gaza after nearly 7 weeks of war. Israel has said that the pause is temporary and it does not indicate an end to the war. The first tranche of hostage release is taking place today. A total of 50 Israeli hostages, all women and children, will be released by Hamas as part of the deal. Israel, on its part, will release 150 Palestinian women and children from their jails. The deal also allows for the entry of more humanitarian convoys and relief aid into the Gaza Strip. Aid trucks have been entering Gaza via the Egyptian border. A Qatar court has accepted an appeal filed by the Indian government against the death penalty granted to 8 former Indian Navy personnel. Sources have told CNBC-TV18 the matter will be heard soon. The Indian government is providing consular and legal assistance to the Indian nationals. Remember, the 8 former Navy personnel were sentenced to death by Qatar on the 26th of October. Now, India's drug regulator has begun a pan-India enforcement drive to crack down on poor manufacturing practices in pharma companies. Sources have told CNBC-TV18 that the drug regulator has directed enforcement teams to take legal action if products are not found to be of standard quality. Timsy Jaipuria joins us now with the details. Timsy, take us through what the drug regulator has planned.
Well, that's right. The drug regulator, CDSCO, has started a major enforcement drive to crack down on poor manufacturing practices. The drive also includes action against public testing labs and clinical research organizations. And this is a pan-India inspection drive on various categories of medicines. And the enforcement teams have been asked to pick up random samples from manufacturing premises itself. The samples to be investigated include that of FDCs, vaccines, syrups, complex formulations, bulk drugs, etc. Sources share that the drive is a joint operation between centre and states, and this move comes in the wake of recent instances of contamination, and the drive will help build confidence post these instances. Sources share that the samples found to be not of standard quality will be sent for further testing at the Central Drug Laboratory, Kolkata, for final analysis. Sources further share that enforcement drive is to ensure production, verification and validation of manufacturing standards, whether they are being followed or not. And these enforcement teams have a clear diktat to take legal actions for non-compliance like production quality norms. The enforcement action is part of the risk-based inspection to ensure GMP practices norms are met. And the last round of the risk-based inspection was carried out in 2016 and 17, and this round will help boost further confidence in the Indian manufacturing sector. Back to you.
Timsy, many thanks for joining us. And with that, it is time for us to wrap up this edition of India Business Hour. Thanks very much for watching. Do stay tuned. The news will continue right here on CNBC-TV18.